Tyler, why are you not talking about altcoins? Why aren't you talking about Solana? Why aren't you talking about XRP? Why aren't you talking about Ethereum? Why are you only focusing on Bitcoin? This is a question that I have gotten several times, not only just within the last couple weeks, but just within the last couple days. And what I want to do for you all today is make this video going over this question, talking about why I'm so focused on Bitcoin, why I haven't been paying attention to alts as much, and why I think this is actually the best thing to be doing right now. Now, in today's video, guys, I'm going to break it down into two different pieces for you. Piece number one is going to be from a more fundamental economic macro perspective, and piece number two will be from a more technical perspective. So let's just dive straight in and let's talk about piece number one, the fundamental economic macro perspective. So when I look at the world right now, when I just kind of zoom out and look at what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the world, the biggest thing that stands out to me is real uncertainty. Oftentimes when we see periods of uncertainty, I don't think that they're justified, right? I think there's been so many moments throughout history, especially in related to crypto history, that there's been a ton of uncertainty that's stemming off of things that I don't think are valid. I think that's more rumor than anything. And I think whenever the market gets super crazy and irrational based off of rumors, it doesn't really, again, it's just ridiculous to me. But I don't actually think that's what we're seeing right now. I think in the world, we are actually seeing uncertainty. And as a result of it, that uncertainty is impacting crypto. Now, this uncertainty stems from a bunch of different things. There are still active wars being fought. There's a new president of the United States where, hate him or love him, there is a lot of volatility, a lot of changes being made. And these changes can be good and these changes can be bad. There's a lot of things happening that are just changing things. And I'm under the belief that the real root of uncertainty is change. Because listen, this is the reality. If things were to always remain the same, uncertainty would not be something that we experience. Because if things always remain the same, there is a certainty of what to expect in the future as a result of analyzing the past. Whereas uncertainty, in my opinion, stems from change because there is difference. Uncertainty in itself is a fear of change. And what we're seeing right now is that fear of change. You have Donald Trump coming in, he's imposing all of these tariffs and then pausing the tariffs. He's doing one thing one day and then another thing another day. And again, I'm not speaking from a political perspective whether I agree or disagree, but what I do know is that there's change. And as a result of this change, it is not only impacting the United States, but it is impacting the globe. You have the Chinese economy kind of in shambles to some degree right now. Then you at the same time, you have gold absolutely skyrocketing. You have US 10-year treasuries skyrocketing. You have the stock market dropping, now recovering. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening right now. And as a result of all of this change, there's uncertainty. And within uncertainty comes a lot of risk in the world of crypto. Now, Tyler, why does this matter when it comes to altcoins? What's the correlation here? Let me bridge it for you. What you have to understand is that in periods of uncertainty, people are going to flock to the safest things that they know. It's just natural, it's human instinct. And the reason that you do it is because it's your survival instinct. Go to the thing that's secure, go to the thing that's safe, leave all these risky things alone, and then go back to them when the time is right. And that's what we're seeing in crypto. In moments of real uncertainty, you are going to recognize that oftentimes crypto investors are going to leave altcoins behind, leave meme coins behind, leave pre-sales behind, and go to something like Bitcoin, go to something like stable coins, or go to your more macro altcoins like an Ethereum in order to capitalize on some more sustainable growth, right? And when that happens, it actually usually lasts for quite a while. It's not usually just a fast thing that happens. It's not usually just one day it's up, one day it's down. No, we're talking weeks or possibly months. Sometimes history shows even years of this happening. And with that in mind, it's just where I think we are right now. And it's where we've been for the last 4 months. In December, the tide started to shift. Once we saw XRP started to peak a little bit and meme coin started losing some momentum, and then Trump comes out with his coin a couple of weeks later, and that pulls a lot of liquidity from the meme coin market, that's when the uncertainty started. And from there, we started to see people shifting all of their liquidity back into Bitcoin and back into your major cryptos, which is why altcoins, for the most part, have been in a bear market for several months now. And as a result of all of this uncertainty, all of this change in the flight to safety, I don't see the reason as to why I wouldn't be doing the same. When I look at the crypto market, I think it's incredibly likely, or it has at least been incredibly likely, that Bitcoin would outperform altcoins for several weeks or several months. And that is what has happened. I'll talk about Bitcoin dominance a little bit in the technical side of things, but the reality is that over the last few months, me not focusing on altcoins and shifting my attention towards Bitcoin and the majority of my input of liquidity or an injection of liquidity into Bitcoin has saved slash made me a lot of money. Because if I had been taking all that money I was using to buy Bitcoin and been putting a bunch of it into Ethereum or Solana or XRP, whatever, I'd be down more than I would be now. And so it's not, I'm not using this video as a kind of like a I told you so, but more of an explanation that look, over the last few months, we shifted our attention back to Bitcoin because there's so much uncertainty in the world. People are going to leave the risky things behind. And something like Bitcoin is going to outperform those risky things until that uncertainty dies down. Now, we may be seeing that uncertainty die down. If this 90-day tariff pause at 10%, if it does stay in effect and go into effect, and or it's already in effect, and it stays into effect, and if we do continue to see some of these negotiations better up, if we do see some sort of positive agreement or generally neutral agreement with China, yeah, we may be moving out of the uncertainty phase, and maybe going forward, altcoins do start outperforming Bitcoin. And then at that point, I'll start paying attention to them again. But in a moment like this right now, where there is still a lot of uncertainty, the smart play, the safe play is to buy Bitcoin. Now, does this mean don't buy altcoins? Of course, it does not mean to not buy altcoins, because the reality is that buying in moments where everyone is super scared, everyone is super worried, and everyone is giving up on alts can generate you a ton of yield. And so I am still doing long-term purchases on things like Solana, on things like ETH, on things like XRP, not as much ETH anymore, but still a little bit of ETH, because I do believe that this will turn into a very good buying opportunity. But the majority of what I'm doing right now is targeted towards Bitcoin because that's where the better returns from the short to midterm are. And that's what I want to prioritize right now. Now, that's my fundamental outlook. Okay, that's kind of what I'm seeing from a fundamental perspective. Let's shift gears a little bit and look at it from a technical perspective, because it actually will show you the picture is being painted exactly the same. Now, before we continue with today's video, let me take a second to tell you about our channel sponsor, Supertrade. Now, Supertrade is a prop trading firm. It's a platform which allows you to use their money to trade and keep a percentage of the profit that you make, called prop trading. Now, this has grown in popularity like crazy over the last few years because traders have had the ability to take very minimal risk but make absolutely gigantic returns on very little upfront capital. Now, the way Supertrade does it is a little bit different than others because they give you two different routes. The first route is a two-phase challenge in which you go through a couple different challenges in each phase, and as you progress, you get more and more access to all of the tools in which they provide and capital, at the very end receiving an account that could have up to $100,000. The second option is instant funding, in which you don't have to go through these phases, but you don't get as good of an account, in which you of course get something like 50% profit share compared to the 80% profit share that you get from the two-phase challenge, which is a gigantic difference, especially when we start talking about big numbers. Now, some of the key features, some of the key differences about Supertrade compared to other ones is that they give you, again, access to up to $100,000. You get quick withdrawals, which is something you don't usually get on prop trading platforms. Trust me when I tell you. Elite education, global opportunities, advanced tech, and dedicated support. And that is the reason why I did want to bring them on this channel, because I've seen so many prop trading firms that just don't do things great. But the fact that they've been able to generate over $210 million in lifetime commission with up to an 80% profit share with funded accounts of up to $100,000, it clearly puts them ahead of the majority of these other platforms. And that is why I do think they're so strong. And so if you are a trader and if you are someone who's interested in getting into the world of prop trading, head to the description below. Go let me know what you think, and let's continue on with today's video. So now moving into, again, the technical side of things, let me show you from a technical perspective why I'm focusing on Bitcoin. So it really comes down to just a couple key charts. The first one being the altcoin season index. This is one of the most reliable charts that I think there is in crypto, and the picture is very clear. We are in Bitcoin season, and what this means is that the market is very, very, very clearly under the control of Bitcoin. We're actually getting to a point where we might be deeper in Bitcoin season than we have been in years. The only time that it was lower than this was when Bitcoin was putting in its huge lows back in July of 2024, and we're basically even with that. We're probably going to touch that sometimes within the next week or so. But this just goes to show you the market's under the control of Bitcoin. So why would we be not going to the thing that's likely to perform the best? Obviously, this is the play. Another thing that you can look at here is just quite simply how alts are performing against Bitcoin in terms of investor sentiment. So one thing we can look at right now, okay, is we can look at the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. And what this is going to tell us is how many people are betting that certain things are going to happen. Okay, so To put this very, very simply, when this red line is very high, it means that more people are betting on leverage that the market's going to go up. When the green line is very high, it means a lot of people are betting that the market's going to go down, or Bitcoin at least. And the reason why this is so important is because I'm under the belief that crypto will almost always shift in the direction in which there are the most liquidations, which means that if this red line is really high, the market has a decent sized chance of pulling back in order to liquidate those people. And if the green line is very high, the market has a very good chance of going up to liquidate those people. So usually it's kind of stupid. It's like reverse psychology almost. When a lot of people are betting on leverage is going to go up, it very well might go down as a result of manipulation, the lizard people doing lizard things. And when a lot of people are betting the market's going to go down, the market has a very good chance of going up. And what you can see right now is, yeah, Bitcoin is seeing high risk of a pullback right now. But you know what's seeing even higher risk than Bitcoin? Watch this. ETH. Watch this. Solana. Watch this. XRP. The list goes on and on and on. All altcoins right now are at much higher level risk of liquidation than Bitcoin. And so when you pair up the fact that we're in Bitcoin season, in which Bitcoin should outperform the alts, and the alts are clearly displaying a much higher risk level right now, the picture starts getting painted even clearer. Now, to put the icing on the cake, let's go look at something like Bitcoin dominance. What you can see is that Bitcoin dominance has consistently been in what is called an ascending channel. Now, by nature, this thing very likely will break to the downside at some point, which means at some point altcoins will start outperforming Bitcoin. But right now, and where we have been for the last couple months, is that Bitcoin has consistently been pushing up through this channel, outperforming altcoins over and over and over again, day after day after day. And until it breaks to the downside of this channel, until it falls out of this channel, it's going to just continue to outperform altcoins. So we have Bitcoin dominance in a structure that guarantees growth until we break out of it. We have altcoins at super high risk levels, and we're clearly in Bitcoin season. All of these things paint the same picture. Now is the time to be focused on Bitcoin, because this is where the true, real opportunity is, at least in the short to midterm. And so, again, these things don't mean that I'm not going to be doing any buying of altcoins, but it just means that my attention is focused on Bitcoin because Bitcoin's controlling the market and is very likely to outperform everything for the coming days, weeks, and months until we start seeing things break, which we haven't yet. And so, with that in mind, guys, that's why. It's not that I hate alts. It's not that I don't believe in alts. It's that my strategy is always to be able to adapt to this market and be able to shift my attention to whatever narrative is most likely to pay out the best. That's what my strategy is, and I stick to it. And so, with that in mind, I hope that does answer your question very clearly. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want you to tell me, how do you feel about it? Are you buying alts? Are you giving up on alts? Are you in Bitcoin? Do you hate Bitcoin? What are your thoughts? And what are you doing when it comes to altcoins right now? I would love to know. So let us know down there. And of course, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. I do have a few links down below to our school, a 14-day mastery program, and much more. So feel free to go check all that out down there. And I can't wait to see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.